Today we have an unboxing of the EasyDens Anton Paar machine for home brewers. So if you guys recall, in the second episode of the Going Pro series, I discussed how one of the most important parts of my job as a cellerman is taking gravity readings and being able to understand where the beers are throughout fermentation, and how that's lining up with when they're going to be finished, and how healthy the fermentation is, and all sorts of stuff like that. And that's just on the cellaring side. On the brewing side, it's equally as important to make sure you're hitting your numbers for your original gravity numbers and your mash efficiency and whatnot. I realized that we were using much higher quality hydrometers in the cellar than in the brewery in general than I was at home. And each of those hydrometers will run you like $50, $60 a piece. And you need two of them because they're so sensitive that they'll go from, we do everything in Play-Doh, but it'll go from like 16 Play-Doh to 8, and then from 8 Play-Doh to 0. So that's basically like having an entire normal specific gravity hydrometer zoomed in and split up into two separate hydrometers. You need to take an 8-ounce sample every single time you want to take a reading. And so on the scale of hundreds or thousands of gallons of beer, it's no big deal. But on the scale of 3 gallons of beer, it's just not practical to take samples that are that large in volume. But understanding those metrics is super important. So that's where this comes in. This is made by a company called Anton Paar, and Anton Paar makes really high-end, like state-of-the-art density meters and electronic hydrometers, and we have an Anton Paar machine as well in the lab at the brewery, and it's a super expensive machine, and it gives you incredibly accurate gravity readings, and so I'll use that to make sure that the beers are finishing out exactly where we want them to finish. I got myself one of these from More Beer. I think they'll run you about $350, which seems like a lot. But if you start to think about, okay, I would have spent at least $100 on hydrometers. Not saying that the hydrometers aren't great, but they're a little bit inaccurate to read, even though the nice ones, and they're made of glass, and so they're incredibly easy to break. And so if you break one, boom, that's another $50. And plus it's just impractical with the size of the sample. So this takes a 2 milliliter sample, which means you basically can take as many gravity readings at any point in the process as you want without worrying about volume. And we're just going to unbox this. I will do a much more in-depth video down the road after I've put some serious miles on this thing to give you my actual opinion of how it works. But this is just going to be an initial reaction to the box, the setup, and just sort of my thoughts jumping right into it. So here we go. The EasyDens digital density meter. A little sleeve. Low. There's just foam on the inside. And then we've got the machine itself in here. Like so. There she is in all her glory. Little guy. I would take this insert out. Hopefully there's directions somewhere. Otherwise this is going to be more interesting than I thought. All right. Oh, we've got all kinds of stuff in here. We've got our little, probably either sample hose or exit hose, whatever you want to call it. Look at that. Got some other things in here. We've got a syringe. This doesn't have a motor. The more expensive ones have a little pump that will pull the sample in and extrude it. So this is just manual. And when I say more expensive, I think like the professional models will be range up to like $50,000 or something insane like that, maybe $15,000, but not something ever practical on a homebrewing side. But on a commercial side, it becomes practical. Quite a thick pamphlet. This is the instructions, and then you have the EasyDens quick guide, which is a lot thinner. So let's just take a look at the quick guide. You're gonna need the EasyDens, a smartphone, which we got right here, and a sample, because there's no screen or anything on this. This is they just took their technology and condensed it into the most simple possible form, which reduces the cost of a multi-$1,000 machine down into a couple $100. We have our 30 cm silicone hose, and then we got the syringe, and then you'll need a waste container. First step is to so this is the exit hose. So you put it on looks like the right-hand side, and then this goes into your waste bucket, and then you need to download an app, which I will do now. Okay, we've got the application downloaded. When you open up the app, this is the first thing that you see. So hit let's go. So now we need to connect the EasyDens. So we've got to be within 30 feet. Let's make sure that my Bluetooth's on. Yes, it is. We're going to turn this on. There should be a light. Bam. Cool. And then we'll connect now. Yes, allow it to use my Bluetooth. It stopped blinking, so I'm assuming we're connected. Now this page here in the manual says degassing options. This is important. So this is something I do in the cellar as well. You can't take a sample either with a hydrometer or even with this. You can't take a sample that has active CO2 in it, and that is not just beer that's been carbonated and packaged. It's beer as it's actively fermenting will have a little bit of residual carbonation that's in solution because of yeast activity. So in order to degas it, they give you a bunch of options of like using a stirrer, like just a little like stirring stick to stir out the gas. You can use the syringe to push a lot of the gas out. You can put it in a capped flask and shake it back and forth for a minute and then open it up. I take 2 pitchers because it's bigger samples, and I'll pour the sample back and forth between 2 pitchers like 40 times, and then I'll take the measurement. Or you could use an ultrasonic bath or something strange like that. But essentially, once you've degassed the sample, and the sample today for us is going to be distilled water. I could crack open a beer behind me, but let's start with water just so we don't screw anything up. It's already degassed. There's no carbonation in distilled water. And then what we've got here is our syringe. And we need to take at least a 2 milliliter sample. So we'll make sure we take plenty of a sample. And then you want to make sure there's no air bubble in it. So just push out without getting it all over the studio table. Yeah, it'll be fine. All right. And then you put it in here. And then you start to press. And as long as you don't have... You're supposed to press slow and then look to see if you've got any air bubbles. If there's no air bubbles, you're good to go. And then hit start once it's all filled. That's cool. Now on the screen, it says it's 1.000 specific gravity, which is exactly what distilled water should be. Excuse the snow plows. There's a big snowstorm today. And it's at 68.6 degrees Fahrenheit, which makes perfect sense because that's the temperature of the room that it was in. So that's awesome. It means it's working. It's that simple. Bam. And then if you wanted to, you could save it to a batch. Save to default batch. So if you look at the default batch, you have the first reading, and it gives you this whole cool graph, and you can add your starting gravity and your final gravity, and it'll calculate, all these metrics, which is kind of interesting. So I'm super excited to see how that turns out. And you can export the data, looks like. Cool. Awesome. That's about as simple as it gets. And in theory, obviously, this is a sample of some kind. And then if you want to clean it, I'm assuming you back flush it. But having distilled water in there, I'm just going to shut this down. Having distilled water in there sitting is not going to hurt anything, I don't think. I'll give the directions, the more in-depth directions a read through, and we'll see see if there's any weird surprises to let you know about. It seems to be working, functioning straight out of the box. It seems quality-wise, build quality-wise, it seems pretty sturdy. I wouldn't go flinging it around because there's a U-shaped sight glass that you push the liquid through, and then it shines a light through it and reads the density of the sample. That little U is made of glass, and if you were to throw this on the ground, it probably would break, and then you're out of luck. So it's an expensive piece of equipment, at least in my mind. So you don't want to screw around with it too much, even though it might be a little more durable than your hydrometer. There you go. About as easy as it gets. Quick unboxing of the Anton Paar EasyDens digital hydrometer. Super excited to take this dude for a spin, and I'll give you guys in maybe a month's time, or once I get a couple batches under my belt with it, I'll give you an update on how that thing's going. If any of you out there have used one and have problems, complaints, concerns, criticisms, things you really like about it, throw a comment down below and we'll get a discussion going about the EasyDens and Anton Paar EasyDens digital hydrometer. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Prost.